Good afternoon. The North Las Vegas City Council welcomes you to our City Council meeting. There are two public forums set aside for public comment, one at the beginning of the meeting and one at the end. If you wish to speak, please complete one of the blue cards, which are located at the table outside the main entrance where you entered, or at the podium rail to my left. Please give the card to City Clerk. She sits right here in front of me. And when I call upon you, request that you limit your comments no more than 3 minutes and try to avoid repetition. As indicated in the agenda, the public may also call into the meeting live or provide written comment for council before the meeting. Madam City Clerk, are we in compliance with Nevada open meeting law?
Mayor Lee, yes, we are in compliance with open meeting.
Thank you. Tonight we have the opportunity to have an invocation given by Reverend John Caprine from Summit Ridge Church. Following that, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance as led by Councilman Churchio. Please rise.
Let's pray. Gracious Lord, thank you for the opportunity for us to come to you and to call upon you. And Lord, I pray that you would give wisdom to the council. Lord, would you give them wisdom that will benefit the city and the people here, Lord. I ask that you will give unity amongst the council members and clarity, unity, so that they are with one body making decisions that are wise and good. And so, Lord, I also pray for a humbleness amongst the council. And Lord, we know that we are under your hand. And Lord, we pray. I ask for peace for this city. Lord, it is our desire that there is peace, that there is order, there is protection, and your hand is upon them, Lord, and ask that there is a hope in this city that surpasses others, Lord, a hope because of your goodness and your kindness to us. And so, gracious Lord, we thank you for this opportunity and call out to you. In your name we pray. Amen. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excuse me. Thank you, Reverend, for coming. I know your 25 years of experience is going to be a great blessing on us today, too, as a pastor. Moving on to council items. Mayor Pro Tem Barone.
Thank you, Mayor. And first, I want to wish everyone a fantastic St. Patrick's Day. I know you yourself, I think, hail from an Irish ancestry. So definitely happy Irishman's Day and Irish Woman's Day there. To begin with, I just want to say we have the city is sponsoring a free skills and drills workout for anyone who likes soccer. We also call it football. The recreation program, it's free, and it's going to consist of 5 consecutive weeks of full of fun activities and drills to help the beginner player learn the basics of the world's most popular sport. And these workouts, these workshops will be at College Park, 2613 East Tonopah Avenue, in beautiful downtown North Las Vegas. And for more information, please see, I guess you can call the Silver Mesa Recreation Center or the Neighborhood Recreation Center, 633-2550, or 633-1600, or, of course, it's on our website. And recently here, of course, I started back at school on Monday, and starting on this last Monday, and next Monday, I'll actually have a few students with us. And it is the will of the Clark County School District for the young men and women to begin to exercise and also begin to participate in sports. But to do that, they have to get tested first. Every school has to come up with a testing regimen. And our school, Rancho High School, which of course several members, the majority of this city council hail from, and of course you would have been a Rancho girl, so we won't hold it against you. We won't hold it against you.
Don't even go there.
Yeah, would have been. But anyhow, they had a problem and couldn't have their testing at Rancho High School. And so I just want to give a big shout out and a thanks because the city of North Las Vegas, Cass Palmer and his staff were able to coordinate with Rancho High School to offer free testing there at the Neighborhood Recreation Center. So if Cass and his team, if you guys are listening, thank you again so very much. That's why we have the best staff in the state of Nevada. Thank you so very much.
Councilman Churchill.
Thank you, Mayor. Let me just mention that I had the opportunity to read at the Silver Mesa Rec Center to our Snoomer Elementary students there during Reading Week. And I always get a kick out of how absorbed these children are in the books that are read to them, how much they appreciate what we do. And while I'm talking about the program here, I don't think I've ever seen. When I was younger, I went to Catholic elementary school, and this reminded me of the same classes I had gone to. Everyone was, so organized and polite, and the teachers were so close with the children, and it was kind of surreal to see how happy these children were in learning and wanting to learn more. So it's an amazing program, and it kind of shows exactly where North Las Vegas is as far as setting the tone and the direction here in the Valley. I also want to take a moment to recognize our firefighters, chief, and all of the volunteers that were part of the Sun City vaccination program. We had also National Guard volunteers, and we also had veterinarians that came in from California to stay here for a month, and they all dedicated their time for the residents up there. And for me to say something that it was very well organized is an understatement, and I know that they're also doing it at Canyon Springs. And I haven't gotten one communication or one email from anyone telling me that they were unhappy about how they were treated and that they had to wait. And I also want to thank, of course, Sun City for providing the room and the time and the organization behind bringing all those residents to the Vista Room. So a lot of kudos to our volunteers and of course to our fire department as well. And lastly, if you aren't aware, tomorrow night at Craig Ranch at the Amphitheater, which was postponed from Monday to tomorrow because the weather's going to be much better tomorrow night, it's going to be a salute to our healthcare workers concert. If you have an opportunity to please, listen in and go and listen to the streaming, go on site, and I think you're going to be very much pleased with the program that'll be coming out. And most importantly, of course, it's done because we are and we want to appreciate and thank all of our healthcare workers during this very difficult time. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Churchill, good report. Councilman Black.
Thank you, Mayor Lee. A few weeks back on a beautiful Saturday, I had the opportunity to join with the Protectors of Tule Springs, Nellis Air Force Base, and Get Outdoors Nevada for a native planting at the Trailhead Kiosk for the Tule Springs Fossil Beds National Monument. It was awesome. My daughter was in town from the frozen tundra of southeastern Idaho where she goes to college. We planted some desert plants, and that kiosk is coming along. If you haven't been out there to the Fossil Beds National Monument and the kiosk on Aliante Parkway, it's a really cool place to wander around in the desert and see the beauties of North Las Vegas from a desert perspective. Also, a few weeks ago, I had the privilege with Mayor Lee to tour the Blind Center over here on Bruce Street, not far from our City Hall. They have an amazing program to help the visually impaired in our community. I learned that there are over 15,000 individuals within Clark County that are legally blind or visually impaired, and it's a great resource at the Blind Center. If you have any old electronics, computers, please make sure you take them there because they repurpose them and recycle them. And then I think it was the week before last, early last week rather, had the opportunity to go to SNUMA over at the Silver Mesa Rec Center to read to the students. It was an awesome experience. I love Reading Week, and I told the kids the difference between pumas in the wild and the SNUMA pumas is the SNUMA pumas know how to read books, and the ones in the wild don't. And lastly, this morning I took my 83-year-old dad to Canyon Springs for his second vaccine shot. And number one, surprised that he fell for it, but he was super glad to get it. And I've been there many times on many occasions at Canyon Springs at different times of day, and it's always the exact same experience, which is no wait, in and out, super smooth, super professional, super courteous. So kudos to our fire department and all the people that are involved in that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilman Goins-Brown, Councilwoman Goins-Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to mention and give thanks and kudos to Rebecca Gibson, our Chief of Staff, for the tremendous efforts that she's putting forth with March being Women's History Month. And again, just learning about all the great women here in our building and other buildings that's in North Las Vegas, and plus just women around Las Vegas and the entire valley. So thank you again to her. And also our own Assemblywoman Claire Thomas today was saying that it's Women in the Military Day or Month as well. And so I want to just say thank you to her for that recognition. And just to add on to SNUMA, it's just amazing. And like my colleague said, if just to talk with the kids, the praise that they give to their teachers goes without saying. It's from the heart. They're genuine, and they're just so thrilled that their teachers are seeing them as individuals, and the attention that is given to them throughout their course of studies is just top notch. And we were just there the other day, and I always love going to visit and chatting with them and see how they're doing. And so just thank you to everybody. It's just a great feeling to see how our babies in North Las Vegas are thriving. Thanks.
Thank you. I usually don't say much because you guys are doing all the work in the field, but three of you mentioned the Southern Nevada Urban Micro Academy and what a difference it's making in education in our community. I don't know if a lot of people understand what we're doing with that, and I also think that Dylan and Ryan have done a fantastic job of rolling this out. Is there a chance we can get some kind of presentation on this so that the residents of North Las Vegas know we are serious about education for our children?
Yes, sir, we will do that.
Okay, that'd be great. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. Great reports. You guys are really making me proud of the city even more and more. So today's St. Patrick's Day, and I'll go on the record as saying that the thinnest book in the world is the Irish Cookbook, but we're very proud of potatoes, and we're very proud of being Irish. So just to let you know, that's the end of the council items. Moving on to the first public forum. This time is set aside to comment on posted agenda items. This public forum excludes discussions of public hearing items, which will be heard later and separately. So if you want to speak on any items listed under the consent agenda, business or ordinances, introduction only, now is the time. Madam City Clerk, do we have any blue cards, posted agenda items, for posted agenda items, written comments or callers on the telephone?
Mayor Lee, we have none of those.
Great, thank you very much. Then we will close the public forum and move on to our agenda.
Item 1, approve City Council regular meeting agenda of March 17th, 2021. Mayor and Council, staff has prepared an updated agreement for item number 4. A copy of that updated agreement was posted online yesterday, and you all have a copy of that before you right now. With that change, staff recommends approval of the agenda as amended.
We've got it. Thank you very much. I'll call for a motion, if there's no comments or questions, to approve the agenda as amended.
Move to approve as amended.
We have a motion. Please cast your vote. Items approved. Moving on to the consent agenda.
Mayor and Council, the consent agenda consists of items 2 through 15, and as noted, there's an updated agreement for item number 4. It's our recommendation to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Thank you very much. So I'll call for a motion, if there's no comments or questions from the council, to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Mayor, before we call for that,
After you, sir.
I was just going to say, there's a number of items here that come through with funding that was provided from our partners there at the Regional Transportation Commission and the flood control. And I would just like to only make a comment that I'm very grateful for these two boards that are helping us improve the very necessary infrastructure that we need here in our city. And a big thanks to them. And with that, I'd like to cede over to Councilman Black.
Councilman Black.
Thank you, Councilman. I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Thank you. We have a motion from Councilman Black. Any other comments or questions? Please cast your vote. We're a little slow today, Catherine. Items approved. Moving on to public hearings.
Mayor, Council, item 16, approve AMP 16-2020 for Orchard Canyon. Short introduction is all this is.
So we have item 16, which will be a presentation. I think, yes, you're here. That's great. And then that will be your presentation for 17-2, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, please state your name for the record.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Stephanie Allen, 1980 Festival Plaza Drive, here on behalf of the applicant, Richmond American Homes. If I could direct your attention to the overhead, I'll show you where this property is located. It's at the northwest corner of Tropical and Lamb. This parcel is currently zoned C2. You can see on this zoning map, it's currently zoned C2. We're proposing an amendment to the master plan and a zone change for a PUD that will allow commercial to remain along Lamb in between Azure and Tropical, and then the remainder of the property to be zoned for residential. Richmond's proposing a single-story community within this roughly 20 acres. Price points will be in the mid-300s. They're pretty large size lots, about 5,500 and up in lot sizes. It's a gated community with an access point on both Tropical and Azure. You can see there's quite a bit of open space that will be amenitized in the middle of the community, a buffer between the commercial and the residential, and then a buffer along Tropical and Azure. We very much appreciate staff and your Planning Commission's recommendation of approval, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Let me open this up for public comment for a second. Is there anyone here that would like to speak on item 16 at this time before I turn it over to the City Council? Catherine?
Mayor, we have no one on the line for 16, and we have no written comments.
Great, thank you very
Please
much.
note that we did send out 584 notices. 2 were in support and 4 were in opposition.
Okay, great. So, Councilman Barone, why don't we start with you? Do you have any comments or questions on this? It's in your district.
Yeah, Mayor. I know you drive past it a lot. Just to give you some history, when you and I first came on the council here, and bless you, whoever I think was sneezing out there, this was actually zoned high-density residential. So it was slated to have a number, probably, I think it was something close to 600 apartments on this. I think, that's the way it was zoned as part of the master plan. However, numerous projects, I think, were slated for there, and they fell through. So then the owners came in, and they asked us to change the zoning to commercial, which at the time it seemed like it was going to be a very good idea, only to have, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, with the current financial considerations happening, and then the bottom fell out of that one. So to get the project going, the best way to describe it is the owners with some new management there, they decided to try a different thing, to maybe have a little bit of both worlds, commercial and residential, but instead of bringing back high-density residential, to bring back some single-family products that were kind of contiguous, a very something that fits in right with the neighborhood, single-family homes, price point very similar to what's around there in the area, all single-story, so they would not be impinging upon privacy of their neighbors. And then, of course, still having the area that's closest to Tropical to be commercial. In the best of all possible world, of course, I'd be much happier if everything here was commercial. However, sometimes you have to sometimes both sides get a little bit of what they want, and with that, sometimes both sides get what they need. And the developer does wish to produce this, and it seems like it's a good project. Is it optimal? Is it the best use? I think so. In this case, I think it does fit within that context. Also, what Ms. Stephanie does not mention is I do believe the developer is going to be paving both sides of the street, which, of course, for you and I who have stood in line there, waiting in the morning, sometimes backed up all the way to Walnut, that has been an issue. And also coming home, people coming down the coming down the overpass to make the left-hand turn, sometimes you're backed up way before that. So this should help with that, and it should make it a little bit safer. We should have a safer community because it's gonna be fleshed out on both sides. So again, I think for all the parties who live in the area, not everyone's going to get everything that they want, but I think most of us can get away with what we need for the area, which will be development, be more affordable housing, that's quality affordable housing that fits in with everything else, and development, and I think safety.
Thank you very much. Council, any other comments or questions on this idea? Can I get a verification on that particular road on Tropical? Is that correct? You're going to, from Walnut, where it kind of subsides, then it goes into a single lane. You guys are going to do both sides of the road?
Yes, sir. So Tropical, we're going to do both sides, the north and the south side of Tropical, which hopefully should improve the traffic. I know that's a big issue, and that's also why we added the access point on Azure so that not all of the traffic was coming out onto Tropical.
Oh, that is, as you say, that is exciting for people trying to get to work in the morning. Well, there's no other comments or questions. We'll close the public hearing, and the chair will call for a motion. Councilman Barone?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Unless anybody has anything to say, I'd like to make a motion to approve this project.
Council, we have a motion. Please cast your vote. Items approved.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Councilman.
Mayor, Council, item 17, approve ZN 27-2020 and pass and adopt ordinance number 3063, an ordinance related to zoning, reclassifying approximately 28.6 plus or minus acres in the zoning map of North Las Vegas from a C2 general commercial district to a PED planned unit development district, ZN 27-2020 Orchard Canyon, consisting of approximately 19 acres for a 98-lot single-family subdivision and approximately 9.6 acres for a commercial development containing a convenience store with gas pumps for property located at the northwest corner of Tropical Parkway and Lamb Boulevard, and providing for other matters properly related thereto.
Thank you very much. So the presentation we just received, Ms. Allen gave us, is a presentation for this item number 17, but I'm going to open it up for public hearing one more time. Catherine, no blue cards, written comments, or callers on the phone at this time?
Mayor, we have none of those, and the same number of notices were mailed out, letters of support and opposition.
And no one coming forward, so we will close the public comment, and the chair will call for a motion.
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
We have a motion. Either room, please cast your vote. Items approved.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Mayor, Council, item 18, approve VAC 02-2021 Tropical Speedway Commerce Center 2 for applicant Harsh Investment Properties, LLC, to vacate approximately 30 feet of public right-of-way on Reese Lane between Madge Lane and Beasley Drive.
Thank you very much. Is there a presentation, and it's just kind of cut and dry. Is there anybody coming forward for this? No.
Mayor Lee,
Madam City
there
Clerk?
is someone on the phone, so I don't know if it's the applicant or not.
Oh, okay.
Bring them in.
Would you find out for me then?
Hello, caller. State your name and address for the record.
My name is Jeffrey Armstrong, 2727 South Rainbow Boulevard.
Welcome, Jeffrey. Your time is now.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeffrey Armstrong. I'm here representing the applicant on this vacation. We've read the staff report and respectfully request your approval.
That was a great report. We will now close. We will now open the public hearing. That was our presentation also, and now we'll close public hearing. And if there's no other comments or questions about this, I would ask Councilman Barone what his thoughts are.
Yeah, Mayor. On this one, there's nothing really holding back this right-of-way release here. And with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, please cast your vote. We have a motion. Items approved. Good luck, Jeffrey.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor, Council, item 19, approve ZN 2217 and pass and adopt ordinance number 3062, an ordinance related to zoning, amending an existing PUD, Plan Unit Development District, ZN 2217, Sedona Ranch, by allowing a 257-lot single-family subdivision on 24.59 acres and a 2.6-acre commercial development containing a convenience store with gas pumps located on the east and west side of North Fifth Street between Ann Road and El Campo Grande, and providing for other matters property related thereto. And with this particular item, Mayor, Public Works has worked with the applicant on some off-site improvements to hopefully prevent sawtooth streets in the future, so that development of the perimeter streets can occur as development of the site occurs. So I need to read in two amendments, two additional conditions to this PUD, and as far as I know, the applicant is in concurrence with these proposed conditions. And the first condition would be all off-site improvements adjacent to North Fifth Street for parcels 3.1, 3.2, and 3.4, as depicted on the applicant's overall site plan for Sedona Ranch, dated 12/23/2020, shall be designed and bonded with the first phase of any development on parcels 3.1 through 3.5. Additionally, those street improvements must be substantially completed prior to final inspection of the first building. And then the second condition would be all off-site improvements adjacent to El Campo Grande Avenue for parcels 3.3, 3.4, and 3.5, as depicted on the applicant's overall site plan for Sedona Ranch, dated 12/23/2020, shall be designed and bonded with the first phase of development for parcel 3.3. Additionally, those street improvements must be substantially completed prior to final inspection of the first building. Those are the only two conditions I'd like to add.
Thank you very much. Mr. Groner, welcome.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the council, my name is Bob Gronauer, 1980 Festival Plaza Drive. In this matter, I am representing the developer for Sedona Ranch. You may know this as formerly known as the Pig Farm. About 4 to 5 years ago, I stood up here, and with me is Chris Armstrong, who is here also with the development team. And about 4 or 5 years ago, Chris and I stood up here and we explained to you what we plan to do with this 123 acres of property. It was bounded by Commerce Street on the west. East is Bruce Street, El Campo Grande to the north, Ann Road to the south, and we had North Fifth Street that went through the property itself. We had many discussions. We had many number of neighborhood meetings. Councilman Churchio was at those meetings. We had many discussions with the neighbors with the single-family development. And Mayor, I remember 4 or 5 years ago, one of your major concerns is the smell in this area and the odor easements and the odor disclosures that all the other residents had to deal with in this area. And the rest of the council, and you've asked us as a team to make sure we could get this done 4 or 5 years ago in order to increase the property values of the people who live in this area. Because up until about a few years ago, all that you would do is would smell the stuff in this area, then you know what that is. But if you think about it today, when you drive in that area, thanks to Chris Armstrong and Guy Insulaco and everybody else on that team, they put in millions of dollars in this area, and you see beautiful homes that are being constructed today. What is before you is probably the last time I think I'm going to actually stand up here on Sedona Ranch, is this property here, approximately 40 plus or minus acres, minus the property that the Combs family lives on up here in this area, which is on the corner of El Campo Grande and North Fifth. We finally have we're taking this down from multifamily, some commercial, putting a commercial C-store here, coming in with D.R. Horton, who is coming in with one of their developments that is actually being built today up in Valley Vista, and coming in this area making another substantial investment. The reason why I focus on this property here, because little may you know that this was the major operation of the pig farm. Unfortunately for the developer, what we realized is it essentially is what we've been cleaning up over the last several years, especially on this property, is more or less a landfill. There is a lot of garbage there. As Chris can tell you, and we've told many people, they've digged down many, many feet down to clean all the dirt in that area to make it developable and livable to be where hopefully someday we'll get all this done with D.R. Horton here. So this is a major amendment for us. This is a major last piece of the puzzle, so to speak. And as I said, that's why I think this is the last time I should be standing here and going through the whole development itself, because this is where we are today. That said, I do want to thank your staff, Mark Jordan and Robert Eastman from the planning side. They've done a fabulous job over the last several years. There's a lot of issues that have been wrapped up with this. It's not easy. It's a mini master plan community. And then more importantly, your Public Works Department. Dwayne McNally, as you know, he wears many hats in Public Works. And even up until the last couple of days, the conditions that Mark read in are very important, because the mayor, as a developer, has made a promise to you and the remaining council is on North 5th Street. Although in El Campo Grande, this property is going to stay the Combs and they live there, we're going to be coming in with those conditions guaranteeing that North 5th Street will be fully paved out and El Campo Grande will be fully paved out as we finish up the construction there. So usually I just stand up here and ask you to just move forward with the application, but I think this is a significant moment with this development here, with everything that's been done over the last 4 or 5 years. And this is definitely a substantial improvement in the area. And Councilman Churchill, thank you. I remember those meetings where neighbors didn't want multifamily commercial. We dealt with all the issues of circulation and everything out here over the years. So we're here tonight asking you for the approval. And again, special thanks to Dwayne McNally, because we put these things together the last second to make sure that these roads are going to be done. The conditions are in there. And Chris is here because if it doesn't get done, it's on him. Okay? Not on me, on him. That's why he's there. I'm just joking with him. But with that being said, in all seriousness, the conditions are there to ensure the stuff is going to get done what we said. So thank you very much.
No, thank you. And that is I'm wonderful to have that complete on El Campo Grande. That's great. If our staff has to squeeze it out of here, you offered it. It's a wonderful thing that happened. I'm going to open up public comment right now. Catherine, any written notices? Anybody in the audience or on the phone that would like to speak on this issue?
Mayor Lee, we have none.
Thank you. So we'll close the public comment. Council, I'm going to come to you. Any comments or questions? We'll start with you, Councilman Churchill.
Thank you, Mayor. Bob, you had mentioned about completing the road. I know I came down North 50 the other day, and I noticed that they're paving the road on both sides. So is that area up by the Combs property going to be completed on that corner as well?
Yeah, and that's one of the conditions that we agreed to, and I'll walk you through this just to make sure, because it's important, because you're going to have constituents asking. As D.R. Horton is coming in with their improvement plans for 3-1 and the improvement plans with the convenience store, there's a requirement that they're going to have to bond on the improvement plans to ensure that this is all going to be paved, all El Campo Grande down the Ann Road. That will be fully, completely improved. Also, as part of those conditions, if we start with parcel 3.3 in here, or with these parcels in here, the parcels I mentioned, although this is where the Combs family lives on this area, this will also be fully improved as we are building D.R. Horton, the subdivision in this area here. So everything will be fully completed for the offsites. It's something that we committed many years ago. And this is where we're going to end up now as we finish up the last piece of the property here.
You know, I didn't realize it was 4 or 5 years ago, but you know, I guess it has been. I remember Guy had completely black hair, and I think Chris had a full head of hair when we started this. But I also remember taking a tour over there with Mr. Combs. And when we got to the corner of North 5th and Ann, felt like we were on the 2nd or 3rd floor of a building. That's how high that landfill was at that time. Of course, there were plates there and forks and knives and bones from the strip. But I've been watching that area. And no, I did want to go, Chris, and look at that area where you were digging down, further and further to try to get to the end of the plastic bags. But, you took on a responsibility over there that I'm not too sure that you would want to do again. Not knowing what was there, under the ground. So, we do appreciate the fact of, both of you getting in there with your company and developing Sedona Ranch and just cleaning up that whole area and, of course, improving the value of the homes in the surrounding area as well. I personally, from Brooklyn, I kind of miss that smell a little bit, but I'm getting used to not having it up by my way. But, we do appreciate the fact of what you're doing, and you have been very respectful of council coming here and letting us know, periodically, almost regularly, what's going on out there and the problems that you were having, but yet you were very positive on wanting to complete the project out there. So from a personal standpoint, I very much appreciate both yourself and Guy, and of course, Bob, I appreciate you going back maybe 5, 6, 7 years.
That's it. Okay,
That's it. We don't want to go back too far.
Councilman Barone?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Gronauer, and of course, I see your principal is here. So to recap, your principal went ahead and dug down at least 20 feet to remediate this property. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, in some areas.
That's a large undertaking. They were able to also put a liner down. Isn't that correct to protect?
No,
or, no liner.
No, everything's remediated.
Mm-hmm.
All that dirt is now clean fill. So what if it's burnt off? New dirt, new fill coming into the property. So it's clean and signed off by the professionals that need to sign off for development. Because one other thing is these public companies such as D.R. Horton and all the public builders here, they want to ensure that the quality of the dirt is buildable and acceptable. So those are things that the process that they've gone through.
And Chris Armstrong with Sedona Ranch, just one point of clarification, just so we're sure. We're in the final process of cleaning up. This portion here is nearing completion now, and we're still working on this portion. But yes, we've gone down in multiple cases down to 20 feet, and we'll complete the cleanup as Bob indicated, and remove all the material that needs to be removed, and then get a clean bill of health from our geotechnical engineer, and we'll be ready to move on. So this is a big step in allowing us to get to that final point.
And I think, the funny thing is, Mayor, I think people have sometimes, short memories. And I get it, we have this global pandemic going on, all that. But at my home, in our neighborhood near Tropical and Pecos, several times during the year, you get a wafting smell from, the previous enterprise, the pig farm. And it wasn't every night, but it was a few nights out of the year. And that's a good ways away, when you'd have the prevailing winds shift a little bit, right, under certain conditions. And we could smell it all the way over there. I can only imagine just how much the quality of life has improved for the immediate neighbors in the immediate area. And I think the applicant here has demonstrated a very genuine effort to go ahead and clean and provide a quality development for generations. And I just would like to thank your efforts to do that. And as a fellow resident in North Las Vegas, especially downwind from this, thank you very much.
I have a question.
Ms. Goins-Brown?
So, Bob, will you still have to disclose that to home buyers, prospective buyers?
I don't know if that's.
I don't think there'll be a need to. Like I said, we're going to work with our geotechnical engineers just to provide a clean bill of health for the dirt, right? So I don't think there's any requirement for us to do that. The individual home builders may choose to do that, but it's not something that we're required to do.
Okay, thank you.
Just for the record, Mr. Combs, the owner of the property for 40 years and ran his business there, is in the audience, and we're welcoming him. And I just have to stand up for him for a minute. We did a little bit more research, Isaac. That smell was coming in from Henderson in Clark County in Las Vegas, coming into our city. It was nothing to do with his business, by the way.
Definitely, there was no slight meant. One of my favorite shows is, of course, Dirty Jobs, and the best episode ever was the one with Mr. Combs and his operation, a pioneering operation. We had to have more than just a school named after the guy.
And actually, on that Worst Jobs in America,
Dirty Jobs,
he was a TV star on that show. He's our first famous North Las Vegas guy. I want to make sure we know that.
Yeah.
So anyway, if there are any more comments or questions, seeing none, the chair will take a motion.
Yeah, Mayor, before I take a motion, everybody's got a mask on over here. I can't recognize that was Bob back there. And I have to agree with the mayor, of course. Bob and his wife are the nicest people. They're really the first ones here. There was really nobody around here when they had their RC Farms over here. We call it the pig farm, but it was really RC Farms, and it was their business for many, many years. And I guess the best thing about it is that we've eliminated the pig scent, so to speak, but we've managed to keep the Combs family over here with us. So that's a good thing. So with that, I'll be happy to go ahead and make a motion to approve ZN-22-17.
And you'll have to add the ordinance to that, number 3062.
Okay. Add ordinance 3062.
So we have a motion as amended. Item number 19. Please cast your vote. Councilman Churchill made the motion. Items approved. Good luck.
Thank you. And unfortunately, Guy wanted to be here this evening, but unfortunately couldn't make it, so we wanted to make sure that we thanked the mayor and council as well, specifically on this project, for the support over the years. Also to the staff, I'd just like to reiterate what Bob said, is both Mark Jordan and Robert Eastman and Dwayne have been phenomenal to work with. You've got great staff, so we appreciate that so much. We appreciate the kind words as well, and to Mr. Combs for his cooperation through this process. So thank you very much. We appreciate all the support.
Thank you very much. Moving on.
Mayor, Council, item 20, approve ZN 29-2020 and pass and adopt ordinance number 3064, an ordinance related to zoning, reclassifying approximately 27.04 plus minus acres in the zoning map of North Las Vegas from an RCL single-family compact lot residential district to a PUD planned unit development district, ZN 29-2020 Binion 50 East, for a 170-lot single-family subdivision for property generally located at the northwest corner of Losey Road and Deer Springs Way, and providing for other matters property related thereto.
Welcome again, Mr. Gronauer.
Thank you, Your Honor, members of the council. Bob Gronauer, 1980 Festival Plaza Drive. I'm here representing Pulte Homes. Just a quick story with this here. This is approximately a 150-acre project that Pulte came in a few years ago. I've actually been representing this piece of property since 2001 for the Binion family. And there are many plans that were here. If you recall, we, back in the early 2000s, were looking to do a major mall facility located here. We took many of your staff members to Ohio, looked at different malls. It was a huge concept in this area from Centennial going all the way up to the Beltway. Very intense project. Unfortunately, things changed in the recession, and as things are changing since the recession, with everybody going online, malls are kind of the dinosaur. Because of that, the Binion family looked at other uses on the property itself. Pulte came in, and if you're in this area here, this is like that mini master plan community. They've done a beautiful job on the 20 acres on the southeast corner here of Centennial and Losey. Then as you go up along Losey and along the Beltway here, you can see the trees, the walls, everything, the signage, it all matches. It looks good in this area. Pulte's put a substantial investment into North Las Vegas, especially in the active adult. The application that's before you is north of Deer Springs here. We call that the Binion 50, of the east and west portion of it. We've worked with, once again, Robert Eastman and Mark Jordan. It's a common theme here in North Las Vegas. Those two gentlemen do a wonderful job in representing the city. We've rolled up our sleeves with Quincy Edwards to address some issues that were here early on. But we've resolved everything, and if anything, Pulte's excited to finish this out, and this is another great asset for the city of North Las Vegas. So once again, just like the pig farm's gone, it looks like the Binion property's gone after 20 years, and it'll finally be all residential here instead of the mall that we thought there was once. So that being said, I can answer any other questions that you might have.
Thank you very much. Councilman Churchill, do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, Bob and I have been speaking on this additional northern piece north of Deer Springs for quite a while. I'm really pleasantly surprised at the popularity of the senior community just south of Deer Springs. we spotlighted that a little bit in our State of the City address. And I already know several people in my own area that are sold. They already sold their homes and they're moving to the senior community over there.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So they're very happy about that. And I'm looking forward to this additional piece up there. I know there were some questions on density at one time, but apparently yourself and staff, worked that out. Mm-hmm. So that's good. I definitely think that this is going to be a major amenity in that area. And of course, if you look at that other blank piece, which is not really blank, going east, heading to our job creation zone, it couldn't be in a better location for us. So we appreciate all the hard work from Pulte and yourself.
Thank you. Let me open it for public comment at this time. Any comments, questions, written comments, callers on the phone, Madam City Clerk?
Mayor, we have none.
We will close public comment. Councilor, is there any other comments or questions on this presentation? Councilman Churchill.
Hey, Mayor, then I'll be happy to approve ZN-22-17, ordinance number 3062.
We have a motion for Councilman Churchill. Please cast your vote. Items approved.
Thank you very much and have a good night. See you in a couple weeks.
Mayor, Council, item 21, approve ZN 30-2020 and pass and adopt ordinance number 3065, an ordinance related to zoning, reclassifying approximately 11.62 plus or minus acres in the zoning map, North Las Vegas, from a PUD, Plan Unit Development District, to an RCL, Single Family Compact Lot Residential District, ZN 30-2020, Lone Mountain and Simmons Streets, northeast corner for property generally located at the northeast corner of Lone Mountain Road and Simmons Streets, and providing for other matters property related thereto.
Thank you very much. Welcome, sir. Your name for the record?
Robert Cunningham with Tanny Engineering, 6030 South Jones Boulevard, representing AMH Development. This is the overall site here. Could you zoom out a little bit? Is that possible? I'm sorry. I have a big exhibits. Are these too big? Okay. I'm sorry.
Oh, there you go. That'll work.
There you go. Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate it. So this is our proposed site here. What we're asking for is to rezone this to RCL zoning. Staff is recommending approval. We have a proposed residential subdivision with 86 single-family lots in it, with a clubhouse, pool area as a central amenity. There's one access point off of Simmons. There's no other access points on Lone Mountain. There are pedestrian access points to Lone Mountain, but no vehicular access points. We've worked with staff on the site plan, the layout, and have gotten staff to recommend approval. We would agree with all of their conditions on this property and respectfully would ask for your approval today. I'd be happy to go into any details or questions you have on our project. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to open public comment and I'll turn it to you, okay? I don't know. Is there anybody here from the public that would like to open public comment on this issue?
Have access to, see parking lot and small one in the back so the students can drive through and get COVID tested. So
hey, Cass, if you'll mute your phone, please.
Free COVID tests?
Cass Palmer, if you'll please mute your phone.
So, Madam City Clerk, do we have anybody calling in or written comments on this?
Mayor Lee, we do not.
Okay. Did I just hear Cass say he wants us to postpone this for a month? Is that what I heard? That was for you.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Thank you very much. We'll close the public hearing and we'll go to Councilman Black.
Thank you, Mayor Lee. If you haven't driven this corner of Lone Mountain and Simmons in a while, you'll see what used to be on a rainy day, Lake Lone Mountain, is now two beautiful lanes in each direction, largely the offsite improvements being done by the development to the west by Lennar Homes. So with your project coming on this other infill property on the east side of that intersection, Lone Mountain and Simmons, I know that you'll continue the offsite improvements with the curb and gutter. Right now there's just a temporary sidewalk of asphalt, but that will turn into a beautiful walkway with landscaping and buffering. I think it's compatible with the existing residential to the north and to the east, and of course the Lennar property to the west that's well on its way. So I support this.
Thank you very much. Council, any comments or questions else from council? Seeing none, Councilman Black.
I'd like to make a motion to approve ZN 30-2020.
We have a motion. Please cast your vote. Items approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to business.
Item number 22, presentation by North Las Vegas Municipal Court Judge Lee regarding an update on the new community diversion court at the North Las Vegas Municipal Court.
Thank you. Welcome, Judge. It's been 30 days or somewhere in that area.
I think so.
This is our first time to get a report back from you. Can you give us a pretty succinct idea of what's going on in your vision?
Yes, absolutely. I've prepared some slides. They're very dense, obviously, so we're going to go through them fairly quickly to hopefully leave time for any questions and feedback. Before I begin, I just want to introduce really the two main figures a part of this program. I have with me today the Assistant Court Administrator for the North Las Vegas Municipal Court, Aaron Tejas, and I also have from the correction side the Community Service Specialist, Juria Williams, as well. All right. And really, even though, as you indicated, Mayor, I was only appointed maybe 4 weeks ago, I've only been able to do any of this really because of the hard work of these two individuals. So thank you for establishing such a great team for me to be able to try to bring this program to the city. So what we have today, Mayor and Council, is the North Las Vegas Municipal Court CARE program. And really, the CARE program stands for exactly what we want to do for our constituents here, and that is a community approach to rehabilitation and engagement. Next slide, please. And certainly the main point of this court is to move away from what we've been doing and move more towards trying to address the underlying issues that cause individuals to come in contact with the criminal court system here. Next slide, please. So community courts aren't new, obviously, but they are new to the city of North Las Vegas. But what is new and maybe unique to the rest of all the other types of specialty community courts is that other places, they're all locked into silos. So there's one department that handles a drug court, another one that handles mental health court, and et cetera. Here, because we've created this one department, but I think it also inherently allows us to look at a more holistic approach to the individuals that come into our program, and that's exactly what's needed. Next slide, please. You can go to the next slide as well. So really, what our CARE program is going to do is, the individuals who maybe pick up a drug paraphernalia charge and might look like they're facing a drug addiction issue, really, if we really dig down any further, might be there because they have a mental health issue that they're trying to self-medicate for. Or if they have a trespass citation and we're looking at maybe a homeless issue or a housing issue, maybe that's not it. Maybe they have an underlying immigration issue, or maybe they have other mental health issues as well that causes that homelessness that then leads to the trespass citation. Next slide, please. So to get into the details of it, this is what we're moving away from. Traditionally, the tools that the courts would use are fines and fees, jail sentences, and then on top of that, late fees and penalties, and even reporting to credit agencies. But instead of using those tools, what we're going to do is use these helpful tools. So mental health services, substance abuse counseling, housing services, veteran services, immigration services, et cetera, in order to prevent the root cause of recidivism, and hopefully by helping that one individual help our entire community. Next slide, please. And in order to do this, it's really taken a tremendous effort by everyone really involved. Really, I feel real fortunate to be in this situation where really the court can't do this program on our own. We really need to have reached out to every branch of city government in every department really to make this type of program really work. And that's just universally across the country how any of these treatment courts, especially courts, work. It's the court reaching out to other, and so to that extent, The Chief Ojeda and Assistant Chief Gravad have been really gracious in their support of our program as well. We've met with them and talked to them about how to get their boots on the ground, so to speak, to identify some of the participants for us, so that we can compress that time from arrest to booking to then pairing services for them. And so that plays an important role, being able to identify these participants. So that's one way our participants could be identified to our program. And then, having Ms. Williams be actually an employee on the correction side helps tremendously too. If what we're talking about is changing the view of how people view the criminal justice system, having someone actually in corrections be there to help them through this process is essentially vital. And so there's another way we can identify participants into our program, and certainly, through on that day of my appointment, your city attorney, she was talking about how much buy-in she has into this program as well, and so through her leadership and Deep Goswami, who's here, who's the head of their criminal division, the city attorney's office, can certainly identify these participants because they also really get what we're doing, and they really are part of our mission as well. Next slide, please. One carve-out in particular, I put this slide in here because even though our cases take a very holistic view, military veterans in particular have certain statutory requirements when they're a part of a treatment court program. So we've already, a little bit because of my past experience, obviously, and in my own military experience, have been able to get this program up and running really quickly. We have, through the VA, a representative who is specifically assigned to our court. And then at the end of the presentation, I've got a short story about how we've already put a veteran through our Veterans Treatment Court program. Anyways, getting that there, one of the things, for better or for worse, that council bringing this program to life has shown us is some of the things that we needed to do differently. And one of the things that we've changed immediately already is the fact that at no point during the process were any of the individuals asked about their veteran status. And so we're doing that immediately, and then being able to, again, compress that time that they're in custody and get them the services that they need. Next slide, please. So this next slide is the best I could do to show all the groups that we've worked with and have tried to develop relationships with. And again, I can't overstate it enough. I mean, Ms. Tejas and Ms. Williams really allowed me to hit the ground running. A lot of these connections and relationships they had developed way before I even got here. And so you'll see there are a lot of private sector and nonprofits on this list. But really, as I indicated before, it's you'll see departments within your own city, all the way down to parking and Seraphin, and working on developing like a mini like homeless task force, so to speak, and really try to utilize all the resources that we have. The last thing I wanted to do was come here in the first 30 days and pretend like I needed a lot more resources before I can do anything. I think that you have tremendous resources within the city and the team here, and so that's what we tried to do. And then utilize everything as well as far as trying to get grant funding as well. So next slide, please. So as far as things we've already changed, I already talked about identifying veteran status. One of a constant subtext oftentimes is that there are underlying shades of mental health issues. And so, instead of releasing them right out into Las Vegas Boulevard, we've already developed a plan where we're definitely not doing that, but we're connecting them with services, connecting them with mental health and behavioral resources in the community. A lot of times, it's where we're actually taking them from the correction center to those facilities directly as well. I already mentioned compressing the time in custody. Also, and then little things too, like the traditional court. If someone doesn't show up, you'd probably just issue a bench warrant and wait for them to get picked up and try to deal with the case then. But we're already making solid connections with these individuals' family members, and so if they miss a court date, we wouldn't necessarily, in every case, just go ahead and issue a bench warrant. We've got other resources. We can call our family members, find out what's going on, what the issues may be, and go from there. And that helps, I think, also not that individual, just that individual, but trickling down to the time spent for law enforcement to have the time to handle more violent and more serious cases as well. Next slide, please. And so then the last slide gives kind of the life cycle of our care program, and really, I've talked a lot about what happens, but maybe what happens at the very end is one of the most important things, and that is that they complete the program. They not only have their case dismissed, but they have their case sealed as well. That way, it doesn't affect anything with their employment applications, and just being able to get their life back on track. And certainly we'll track the data, be able to present to you, Mayor and Council, hopefully the good work that this program does in reducing recidivism and just improving our overall community. With that, thank you. Take any questions?
Well, thank you, Judge. This has been a very exciting opportunity to deliver to our community services they need. I know the council, we've talked about this and stuff. I'm going to go down the line, starting with Councilman Barone, all the way to the Councilwoman Goins-Brown, and start asking questions. Councilman Barone?
Yeah, Mayor, is that okay? I have numerous questions, but I'd like to just ask one first because maybe one of my colleagues might have the same question. Judge, thank you so very much. I know you and your team are doing your best. This is something where we're creating where nothing existed here. And so it's quite a challenge, and I definitely commend you and your team for the progress you made so far. I saw the continuum, of how someone progresses when they get to your court. Now that brings one first question to my mind: does someone actually have to be cited or arrested to partake in the community court services?
That's a good question, Councilman, and really. At this time, to answer your question in what our capabilities are right now, the answer is technically yes. That's how the court becomes involved in these individuals' lives. And really, in a lot of respects, that's how this program is effective. So there are all these services in the community, but these individuals haven't gone to take advantage of them. The court system, having a court case, is oftentimes what that motivating factor can be to get them engaged into taking access and advantage of some of these programs. Having said that, I limited that to what our capabilities are today, Councilman. Really, I hope that over time we can build a extremely robust care program where the services that we offer to the individuals who come in contact with our court is something that we can offer to the general community as well. And that's where Ms. Williams and Ms. Hayes have been so vital in developing these relationships. It was a little bit of a surprise to me, but it turns out it's like a lot of other things in life. It's developing the right relationships to have access to these resources. And so things like having mobile shower units, having an immigration clinic, things like that we want to make available to our participants. We hope that this program becomes so robust that we can just offer it to the general public as well. Thank you.
Are you finished?
Oh, like I said, I'd like to go ahead and allow my. I have other questions, but I'd like to just give another. Just in case I already have my question. If not, I'll come back and ask my question.
I'll come. Councilman Churchill.
Thank you, Mayor. Judge, thank you so much for taking on this responsibility, and to your staff as well. Had the pleasure of meeting several times, and definitely qualified to do this job. I do have a lot of questions, but we can kind of either hold them off until the next time we meet, or I can contact you because I don't want to spend a lot of time here, or take time away from my colleagues to maybe ask the same questions. I know that speaking, I'll kind of segregate the veterans out from this because, as I understand, this is going to be a standalone program.
Correct.
So, that's going to be very important for them. But I see the, and you don't have to go back on the slide. So you see a whole list of nonprofits over there. Right. They're different nonprofits, different quality of nonprofits. Do they fit the bill for what we want over here? Because not all nonprofits are the same. But what I did want to ask you first, speaking with a lot of veterans in the community who are interested in this program, whether it be for the homeless side that are non-vets or homeless side vets, are we going to have an availability for them as far as volunteers from within our community to be part of this program as volunteers?
Absolutely, Councilman. And really, I think when we measure the level of success of this program, I think that's one way that you can quantifiably measure if we're successful or not, and whether we have members, where we engage members of our community to join our effort and our mission. And really, at the end of the day, we're hoping that the graduates of these programs, the veterans, for example, who graduate from this program, will be eventually our volunteers who help us with our program as well. So absolutely, I think I hope I'm not overstating or misstating kind of the preface to your question, that there are so many nonprofits, there are so many resources out there, but really we need to find the right ones and the quality ones that fit our program to make this machine hum along really well. So I'm certainly sensitive that I'm glad that obviously you are as well. But yes, to answer your question, volunteers would be very helpful.
Okay, great. The other question I had was, volunteers are great. They do an amazing job. But, you can't build a business just on volunteers because they're volunteers. When it comes to your case management specialist, is that going to be someone that will be hired and on the rolls, that will be available for calls at different hours and different times of the day?
Right, Councilman. I think that's so vital that you bring that up, because one thing that maybe we knew before, but just kind of confirmed even more through this process is the importance of government and of governance as well. The nonprofits, as you indicated, are excellent in what they do, and I know the presentation behind me. Those individuals are excellent in what they do as well. But when we're given the responsibility to use taxpayer dollars, I think that there is a clear difference in the approach that we have to the services that we connect, and that's my, I guess, nicest. I'm a terrible political person, so some things I think need to be handled by government, because a lot of other organizations have their own special interests that they're seeking. I mean, you hear horror stories about some organizations just taking on participants and just to bleed them of their Medicaid benefits or something like that, and then they're left with nothing and no more services. So absolutely, if there are down the road when we can build this program up, those types of case managers that are internal, that are associated with the court, that would be certainly the best practice.
That was my last question, but let me just finish with a statement. And I'm glad you were very transparent in that, because I agree there are some nonprofits out there that are more concerned about themselves than they are about the people that they're serving. This program, goes hand in hand with our community correctional center, which used to be a detention center. So, this fits like a hand in glove. This is our vision, going forward. So I appreciate the fact that your presentation, your slide presentation, kind of reflects that. But there hasn't been, to my knowledge or how I feel, a good relationship with the court and with the city over here in the past, kind of working in silos, which shouldn't be. This should be a partnership, because we're all in this together. While you take in, nobody wants to step on your toes, so to speak, and do your job, because that's what you're there for. But we want to be a partner to what you're doing over there. And I would appreciate the fact that that you share what's going on over there and come to us when you need something, and maybe even make a quarterly report to let us know, whether it be in open session or individually as council people, because we're all in this together. But I don't want to go back in time and feel like we're two different cities, even though we're like a block away or so.
Right.
So we're here for you, obviously, with the financial support. But it goes well beyond finances. It goes to the fact that we have a lot of important things to do for our people in the community. And, the past dialogue or lack thereof is in the past as far as I'm concerned. So I look forward to working with yourself and your staff going forward. So I'm here for you, and I know we're here for you going in the future.
I appreciate that, Councilman, and really I can't really reiterate it enough that I think this is the perfect vehicle to kind of whatever there may have been before. A program like this does not work without all the departments in the city working together. And as I indicated, the tremendous support from Director Renee Baker from the jail, from the Correction Center, allowing Ms. Williams to be a part of this team is tremendous. Chief Ojeda allowing her, Michaela Moore allowing her, and then everything that the council and mayor provided. I'm happy to provide any reports quarterly. And one of the other things that's important in this program is kind of providing for certain incentives. And so participants in the program at certain points, even if short of graduation, they'll have periods of promotion where they get maybe certain more leeway in what they have or access to more services. And so we'd be happy to invite anyone, and those will all be open to the public as well.
Thank you very much. Councilman Black?
Thank you, Mayor Lee. Judge Lee, I'm excited about this. I was really happy to meet with you and Aaron and Drea in the briefing. I think that the name is awesome, but it's not just a clever acronym. I mean, if you look at it, there's a lot of depth and substance here, and to me it denotes a multifaceted, proactive effort to help people change their lives in a very, very constructive and organized way. When you approach this, it's a pretty big task, especially with a finite budget and a limited number of staffing. So I was really happy to hear you talk about leveraging relationships. Now, I was just in the briefing yesterday and then today during your presentation just thinking of the public and private or nonprofit engagements that we can have to help us to bring resources to the table. Just 3 of the boards that I'm on alone, one deals with housing, one deals with health, and one deals with employment. And 3 of those things are really foundational elements to people being able to be self-sufficient and stay out of the criminal justice system. We have people from Workforce Connections here tonight that are literally partners in the wings waiting to help us deploy this great program. One question I have is, considering the fact that you're building this from the ground up, you are leveraging these relationships or establishing the relationships first and gaining credibility, what resources, if you had a wish list now, what resources do you need or should you have in order to start out successfully?
Thank you for that question, because it really kind of points to where I would like us to be in 30 days at my next report time, and that is just bringing this to scale. So we've already had several participants of the CARE program that we've been able to help. I think these are some of the stories that I shared with you folks during the briefings. But the only limit right now, Councilman, is the fact that it's the 3 of us, and really it's the 2 of them, and me taking some credit for them. We were able. So for example, last week we had 2 individuals with varying degrees of mental health issues, and for just to get one of those individuals placed took literally 24 hours. The Captain Bunch, who's over the marshals, was getting a call every hour, an hour and a half, as we tried to find a facility for them, and then we got rejected, did another one, got rejected again. So the more resources like that we have, the better. But to that point, and I don't mean to deviate from your specific question, but that shows how important the relationships are. Some of these other courts who have experience with mental health courts, they already have this established pipeline. We're coming new. We reach out to these organizations, and they're like, who are you? So it's sad that we haven't been able to do that yet. But the silver lining is that you, Mayor and Council, have created this great program and created this new department so we can do it. Gone are the days where North Las Vegas, and these are some of the words from the service providers that we met with, said this used to be the dumping ground for homeless and mentally ill. And so with this program, in conjunction with the other city departments, we're going to change that.
One more thing, it's just a comment in line with what Councilman Churchio said regarding coming back and reporting to us. I would love to see an analysis going forward once you have some experience, kind of putting metrics in place to look at the old way of doing things compared to this new methodology, both from a financial standpoint but also from an outcomes-based standpoint, because collecting fines is one thing, but making a difference that could potentially set someone on a different trajectory kind of supersedes fines and fees. And so I'm excited to see that side-by-side, old way, new way analysis.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Councilwoman Goins-Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Judge Lee, Aaron, and Taria. Thank you for a great presentation. I just have two questions, and one you touched on a little bit, but is there a need, or do you find a need for different type of programming for female offenders versus male offender? And if so, what kind of programs would that look like?
Right, absolutely we do. And so, I know I did a carve out for Veterans Treatment Court, and one of the related issues of Veterans Treatment Court is, this kind of unit cohesion that helps them go through their issues. But a whole group mentality is important for anyone going through recovery, and not feeling like they're going through it on their own. And so whatever kind of commonalities we can have, so certainly they're housed separately and have their own environment, just like the veterans would. But I already know that Ms. Williams and Ms. Hayes have worked on that. And Ms. Williams, I know she's reached out already to places like that that's specifically just are for our female participant population. Yeah. See, now you're going to get the real information.
Please state your name for the record.
Aaron Tellez, with the municipal court. I just wanted to say that while we certainly have service providers and some services that we're able to coordinate specifically for women, I think that what's really unique about the program that we're creating is that no two individuals will be receiving the exact same services. And this really gives us the ability to have that really holistic approach and identify everybody as an individual. And certainly there's that calendar, that completely standalone veterans program. But the rest of this care package, the calendar itself will certainly see both a mix of men and women at the same time. But each specific recommendation for treatment is going to be so unique to that one individual. And I feel so fortunate that we've had Ms. Williams here to set up a lot of those relationships, and a lot of them with service providers that cater to women and their unique needs. And I'm just really glad that we are not looking to have that sort of cookie cutter approach to any one issue with a sort of blanket sentence, that we have this opportunity to take this really holistic therapeutic approach to each case as an individual, which I think is really unique.
And if I may add to that, Mayor, Council, this is Jaria Williams. I'm with the Community Correctional Center. Speaking with the types of services that I've been able to secure even before Judge Lee came along, I did identify with them that we are bringing on a judge for a community court. We didn't know what that was going to look like until he came on, but I did make them all aware of that, and they were super excited and willing to participate in whatever way possible. But just to give you kind of an example of what Aaron was speaking on, just today, yesterday I had 3 female inmates who were requesting services. I identified one particularly who had a court date coming up tomorrow, but she was a perfect candidate for the program. I went to Judge, talked to him and Aaron about, possibly allowing her to be a participant in this program if I am able to provide services and find residential treatment for her because she is homeless. I was able to do that. I had to verify insurance, and unfortunately in the system that we have right now, it all depends on insurance and the type of insurance you have. That will depend on what type of treatment and services you're able to get. Unfortunately, she didn't have the insurance needed to get into one of the larger treatment facilities. But I do have those grassroots organizations that are also part of these organizations, the listing of resources, and I was able to get her into a faith-based program. I just got the notification right before council meeting started that she was accepted, and Judge said that she was going to be able to be a participant in that, so he was going to make the changes that he needed for the court. So that's the kind of things that we are able to do right now, and it's good that we're kind of small, not that many people yet, to be able to build a process so that way when we do have more participants in the program, it'll be easier for us to identify the types of services that they need, the insurance that they need, and being able to coordinate the transportation to get them there as well.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you. And my next question, you did touch on this base, and I have attended ex-offender graduation programs because each person will finish their program at different times, but will there be an opportunity to bring them back together and host like the traditional graduation ceremony? Because I think it's just good for their self-esteem to be recognized as as successful individuals who, this is a milestone for them, just like a second chance, a new lease on life.
Absolutely, Councilwoman. You hit it right on the head. There's so much, case study on other types of treatment courts that have acknowledged the importance of that type of graduation ceremony, some kind of acknowledgement. And for some of them, without this graduation, they might not have any other graduation type of experience. To have that kind of collective graduation and have the ability at that point to encourage them to help others and have people in the program who haven't graduated yet see other people graduate, hear their stories. Absolutely, that's going to be a vital part of this.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any final? Has anybody else got any final questions? Or Councilman Barone, you'll be the final.
Yeah, thank you very much. And again, I know you're just barely fleshing this out. It seems that you're going to need more support. Has your team had a chance to explore different grant options, for funding? And so, does your court actually have the capability to go ahead and write grants? I know that your team, basically, it's a team of 3 right now.
Right.
You're gonna need caseworkers. I don't know what the caseworker is going to be, whether that's going to be a law enforcement officer, a marshal, who acts as, of course, as an officer of your court, or if that's going to be, someone. Anyhow, does your team have that necessary administrative capability to explore, and actually write these grants for additional funding that you might need?
So we've been fortunate enough already to be to have meetings with Dellen and with Richard Easter to look at different grants. Jeree on her end on the correction, and she's already been working on her grants already. In fact, I think every other day there's another success story that she has. I think we're up to something like 300 bus passes now, or something like 400 bus passes now for individuals to be able to utilize. But you're absolutely right, Councilman. I did say that we wanted to be good stewards of the taxpayers and do everything that we possibly could with our existing resources. But we have set up a system to where we can access grants. For example, one of the grants that we're looking at is some of these care dollars are for depopulation of correctional facilities due to COVID so that they can be released from custody and not have to all be there together. That gives us an avenue to try to apply for electronic monitoring and supplies like that oftentimes are too costly for the participants in our program. So if faced with an individual who can be out of custody, be at home under electronic monitoring, but only if they can afford it, obviously isn't an equitable, just system. And so there are grants out there that we're already accessing in order to get that going. Oh, yeah.
If I may. Oh, yeah, sure. Tomorrow, I have a meeting with that includes Rich Easter with a possible grant partnership with WestCare to provide available beds for our homeless population that come through the CARES program. So, because priorly, if they don't have insurance, it's really hard to get placement because there's a long waiting list. This grant would allow us to have certain beds earmarked specifically for North Las Vegas, and we would be able to utilize those dollars. So we've identified that opportunity, and the RFP is due in April, so we're going to start working on that tomorrow.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Rich. I had a couple questions, but they were well thought out by the council, so I have no more questions. I think the thing I'd like to just mostly say is how proud I am of the city manager and the city attorney for continuing on to have this dream, to build this. And I think they've been true champions, and you're saying it's working well between both organizations. I couldn't be prouder of these two here. This is going to be great. Thank you, Judge.
All right, thank you. And then, we're on the judicial end, so I need to make sure that the record is clear. Councilman Black, you said you love the name. Going on the heels of what you're saying, Mayor, that was actually Ryan's idea for that name. It really, we had a different name. It was a core program. He said, "What about CARE?" And immediately we all loved it. And so, I wanted to make sure that Ryan got credit for that. And just thank you for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. If you don't mind, I'm going to head home after this. It's a school night for my kids, so I'm going to shove off here. And I did get my second dose at Canyon Springs this morning. That's why I'm I'm a little out of sorts. I might fall over. I might not remember anything about tonight, but I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, I want your family to see how proud we are of you and what you're doing for our community. Thank you very much. There'll be no motion. It was just a presentation. Mr. 23.
Item number 23, update from Workforce Connections, Southern Nevada Workforce Development Board. Mayor and Council, I'd like to introduce Jaime Cruz, who's the Executive Director of Workforce Connections, and Irene Bustamante Adams, who's the Deputy Director and Chief Strategy Officer. They've got a presentation that they're going to provide to Council, and one of the things that I wanted to just kind of preface as part of this is we've partnered with Workforce Connections specifically in our libraries, and as you all know, our libraries, because of the pandemic, we've kept our libraries closed. That's something that maybe some other jurisdictions have not done, but then they quickly reclosed their libraries whenever their workers started to get infected. We've kept them closed, and we've been able to use our librarians in multiple different programs and things as we work throughout. As we've tasked them with working on different projects and priorities as prescribed by Mayor and Council. But the time is coming where we're going to start reopening libraries. And I think it's really important because Forrest has done a really good job in positioning our libraries to be a center for employment. The employment numbers were released again today by the state, and Southern Nevada. Once again, North Las Vegas is the highest unemployment in the state. We're around 11%. I think it's around 10%. We were 11, so it's a little bit better so far right now. But we're not sure really what that number represents because it's not your traditional unemployed group of folks, because there's still a lot of stimulus checks that are coming, and there are the reality of the pandemic and the way that government has decided to deal with it is some people actually make more money than being in the workforce. And so there are some of those economic realities, or they're making close to the amount, so there's not the same push to be out looking for work. So we're unsure of what some of those numbers mean. We know in talking with different businesses, this is what we're hearing from them, is it's difficult for some of them to bring some of their workforce back because they're making more in stimulus than what they were making when they were there working. And I'm sure this is probably dealing more with part-time and other things like that. But we're still very concerned about that number. We believe that our libraries are centers where we can help connect people to jobs. We believe that in the evolution of libraries of the future, that's a central role that they're clearly playing in our community and will play in the future. So we're glad to see libraries start to have that, where they're coming back online probably in late spring, and that they will continue working with our great partners at Workforce Connections.
Welcome, Mr. Cruz, and Assemblywoman Bustamante Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. It's always great to come and see you. We were waiting for the day that you would have in person again, so we're excited. And first of all, congratulations to you, Mr. Mayor, the Council, the City, Ryan, the whole team for the award you received, the Cashman Good Governance Award. You're always making North Las Vegas shine, so good for you. And Ryan hit it in the head about this thing. This situation is not like the past recession. Besides all the realities he mentioned, we also have this one that we thought would come 10 years from now, and we used to call it the future of work, where automation and artificial intelligence would start to replace jobs, much like the Industrial Revolution. It changed the way we build things with the assembly lines. And so the future of work is today. The hotels are replacing jobs with automation, with kiosks, and so it is very different. And so, but whenever your team calls us, we're here. We love working with your team, and today you'll hear about some of those things. So to get us started, we're going to split it again like last time. My colleague, Irene Bustamante Adams, will get us started, or like Councilman Barron calls her, Irene. So.
Thank you for that reminder. For the record, Irene Bustamante Adams, Deputy Director for Workforce Connections. Next. That's our slide next. Great. And this wasn't part of my presentation. I think this one's yours. Actually, your part.
I think this is easy, Irene, because we hope, and hopefully you can confirm, we sent you or we mailed you all an envelope that contained our annual highlights. Mm-hmm. Did you all receive it?
Yeah, it's right here.
Great. Then, I don't need to explain it. They have it.
All right. Yeah. That gives you just an overview of what we've done together as partners, like the city manager was saying, what we have done collectively, and where we're making impact. So next. So just as a highlight, we just want to remind the group, because we know that as public servants, first, thank you for your service. I can appreciate the work and understand better what local government's role is in the bigger picture. But just as a reminder of what we do on a grander scale, we're your local workforce board. And when I say your local workforce board, that's what we do here, is to serve your constituents. And so we're called to convene the public workforce system under the One Stop Career Center brand. Next. Like I said, there's 17 individual entities in this public workforce system. So I know that some of you have children, grandchildren. Can you imagine trying to get them all together and go in one direction? Not easy, but that's what we're called to do. Each one of those are handled independently, have their own roles in workforce development, and our role is to try to convene those and row in the same direction. Next slide. Just a reminder, we all get workforce dollars from different entities on the federal level, whether that's the Department of Education, the Department of Labor, Department of Health and Human Services. Our bucket is that first pillar there that you see. It's about $20 to $25 million of workforce dollars that are supposed to go into the community, but collectively it's about $140 million. That's a huge number to be able to help your constituents with employment and training, but we want to give you a big picture of what that would look like. Next slide. And this is the brand that it's under. It's called the One Stop Career Center for us. Next slide. Here's where we're talking about the investments that we've made over this last year together. We were able to become what is called a work-ready community. Why is that important? Because when you are bringing a new company into the space, one of the first things that they ask for is, what does your workforce look like? And so in order to have an inventory, we were able to become accredited to become a work-ready community that has that tool and that documentation. So as a region, you want to be able to say, here's what our workforce looks like, here's the skill sets that they have, and here's the industries that would be the best fit for our region. That's what the Work Ready's communities allowed us to do. In addition, we were able to certify 12 what we call job profilers. That's another tool within this toolkit. Why is that important? Because we know that as an employer, they're always watching the bottom line as they should. And so in order to watch the bottom line, you need to hire the right worker the first time. Next slide. So we were able to certify 12 job profilers that do just that. It's an alignment of being able to have that skill set of that individual. We have 12 people in this region, and only in this region. We haven't deployed it in the north because that's another local board. 12 individuals that can make that work with the employer and do that assessment for them at no cost. We are just starting to get our feet wet in working with employers, and soon will lead to a more robust tool for this region. Next slide. Another investment that we made that's important to you is what we call subject matter experts in the LVGA and Vegas Chamber of Workforce Development Professionals. Those two gentlemen up there are the two new additions. Jake is on my left and Mr. George is on my right. Why is that important to you? Because as the LVGA and you guys are looking to attract new companies or expand new companies, before you had to call Jaime and I, and we would scramble to come and meet your potential clients. But now we have these individuals embedded in those entities, and they are right there to be able to answer the questions. It shortens the time, like you have done with permits. Now it's a quick turnaround, and they're the subject matter experts at your disposal. That is huge for us to keep our competitive advantage, especially if we don't have the tax abatements or some of the other tools that larger states have. This is part of our solution to keep you competitive. Next slide. This is another investment that we made, and it's called Employee Envy Business Hubs. So we have always, because of what the city manager said.
Let me turn my phone off.
Oh, sorry.
I just got this phone an hour ago. I think I did it.
Okay.
I'm apologizing for that.
No worries.
Okay.
Like the city manager said, our relationship with you and the libraries enabled to deploy our job centers embedded into the communities where people live and work has been amazing. What we did to rethink of how we address the other segment, which is employers, is what you see before you. So we, in October, launched 2 Employee Envy Business Hubs. Why is that important to you? Well, just like we have the one-stop centers, your business can go to these locations and get their needs met when it comes to the public workforce system and the workforce. It could include everything from recruitment, hiring, training, space, financial incentives available to employers for hiring Southern Nevadans. And so this is what we are calling our employee business hubs. And you have a location at the Vegas Chamber and one at the Sahara West Library. Both of those locations gave us free space, very generous space to be able to deploy that service within those entities. And you don't have to be a member of the Vegas Chamber to access those resources. You can be a member of any chamber. And so we are working with all the other chambers, the Asian, the urban, the Latin Chamber, among others, that we are working to make sure that their employers get access to this. Last night we had a meeting for the first time at the Sahara West where we convened business owners. We had 50 in attendance, and the rest were all paying attention live stream. And they stayed for 2 hours to learn about the resources available, because that's how important their business is to reboot and grow. was for them. It was an amazing event, and we're grateful that we can deploy that for you and your constituents. I'm going to turn it over to our executive director for the second half.
Thank you, Irene. So before I move on to my items, I just want to quantify this for you. These initiatives about being in the libraries, your libraries, and these chambers of commerce, and now the City of Las Vegas property too, they have us at this place called the West Side Historic School Site. It's just so successful that entities are realizing that we can be a value added where they are. What it means in money, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, is now we've reached a point, and I don't know if I've shared this with Councilman Black yet, but we've reached $500,000 that means that we didn't have before because we were spending it on rent or infrastructure. Think about how many more small businesses and job seekers we can help. So this is something great happening only in our region and here in Southern Nevada, and we can be proud of it. And another mathematical example I'll give you is, what does this mean, this hub for your businesses? We have heard over the last year stories, and we've met them, we've helped them, small businesses who have done everything they can to stay alive. They've exhausted their bank savings. They have taken seconds on their homes just to stay alive. The last thing they have right now, and thank goodness we're turning the corner and we can see the day where they can start hiring again when these restrictions are lifted from the economy and we don't have to operate at 25, 35, 50%, but instead 100%, we are ready to help them. How, you say? If there's a small baker here in North Las Vegas that is ready to hire his or her bakers back to bake croissants for the Strip, we all know that when you do that, you have to spend the money to buy the flour, you have to spend the money for electricity, to pay the wages, and when you don't deliver the croissants, you don't get paid that same day on the Strip. I worked there for 20 years, I know. They say, talk to my accounts payable, they'll mail you a check in 45-60 if your credit clears. And so the last thing the small business has is the bank to front that expense. So our programs can help that small business with that expense. What do I mean? For the first 8 to 12 weeks, that's 3 months, we can cover up to 90% of those wages. So think about the impact we can have for your small businesses as they ramp up. So I just wanted you to have that number present. So next slide, please. So again, this is going to happen in these business hubs. One of them located at the Vegas Chamber, which I know you have a great relationship with, and the Las Vegas Clark County Library District. Next slide, please. And so here, a quick update. During this year that we haven't seen you, we've been busy talking to the state and the feds about how do we increase the effectiveness of these funds. Sometimes policies and rules are made not in these times of great need, but in times of good economy. And so we have been able to, thank goodness, get some waivers and policy changes that would help us deploy the money in a better way. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry. We're frozen, huh? Oh, there we go. So, again, this includes things like the OJT, which I just explained is the on-the-job training program that means we help pay for wages for your employers of your small businesses. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a second. Next slide, please. So here we go. This was a real problem that we had here until just today, Mr. Mayor and Council. We got, this afternoon, got done with the Governor's Workforce Development Board Executive Committee. For months, we've been trying to say, please remove this barrier. Believe it or not, even though the federal legislation doesn't have it, here in Nevada, we had chosen to put a barrier on how we spend that money. I just gave you the example. And it's a barrier that didn't exist, but basically it meant that any business with less than 5 employees, we couldn't help. Nobody could explain to me why that makes sense. Those are the businesses that need the most help. So we have now, we used to fight alone, and as you know, it's hard to fight the state alone. And so thank goodness now we've earned the trust of partners like you, the municipalities, the counties, but just as importantly, the business community. So we had letters signed by Mary Beth Sewell from the Vegas Chamber, Ken Evans from the Urban Chamber, Peter Guzman. All the CEOs of the chambers know how important this was. So today, they advocated for this change that we requested, and it got removed. So I'm happy to say to you that now when your business, your micro business from North Las Vegas calls us, we no longer have to say, even though we say with our words that Nevada is business friendly, that rule really didn't mean that. And so we have removed that barrier, and we're happy to share that with you today. Next slide, please. We've also received some additional federal funds that we, again, intend to deploy in the manner that I share with you. And this is one that we work with our sister board in the north called Nevada Works, and that adds up to about $13 million more that we will be, again, deploying here in Nevada. Next slide, please. Again, remember this, because when your businesses call you and say, I want to grow again, I want to hire, but my bank account is dry, you tell them, go to the Employee MB Business Hub. Talk to those people. They have funds to help you. Next slide, please. We also have opened something called an Employee MB Career Hub with the College of Southern Nevada, because a lot of the dislocated workers that we were mentioning earlier are going to have to go through reskilling. And so we're there now located at the Charleston campus with them. We intend to be here at the Cheyenne campus as well soon. Next slide, please. And these are the hubs I was telling you about at the CSN campuses to help dislocated workers. Next slide, please. And here you are. What are we working with you? Well, we already have been committed to work with your team on this initiative that Judge Lee talked about. Thanks to Councilman Black, we met him in person today. And again, not only are you already connected to our reentry specialty programs, but Councilman Black reminded us that we can do better. So we're going to broaden the support network for these participants in these programs through our other service providers as well. So next slide, please. And so what are we working on next? We're going to do better at youth, and we'll come back and tell you about what that means. For example, in these months of Zooms and virtual things, we've gotten better at career exploration, because all these months, youth could not go to a site. Companies didn't want to host them. And so we really got good at virtual career exploration with some of these companies. And we also have a very interesting pilot with the Department of Health and Human Services in Maryland Kirkpatrick at Clark County to develop a child care workforce training program, which again means we take foster youth, train them to be child care providers, and that takes care of two problems at once. So next slide, please. This is another really interesting project that hopefully some of your businesses can take advantage. We have partnered with Facebook to do something that's really unique. In this age, again, digital marketing skills are becoming very important. Companies don't know yet how to market themselves on virtual platforms, the internet, Facebook, all these things. I don't know how to do that. I know my kids do, but so digital marketing, how do you have an online presence? How do you grow your customer base, your networking? How do you grow your supply chain? And so Facebook is going to train, at no cost to us, 50 digital marketing specialists. And we reached out to those that are interested, job seekers that need to change careers. We're going to select 50 people. Facebook is going to train them over 12 weeks at no cost to us. And then here comes our investment. We're going to pay for 12 weeks their salaries, full salary, and host them at a small business so that small business can benefit from those digital marketing skills. And hopefully the intent is that the business realizes what a value added that is, because again, increase their sales, grew their customer base, and that they will keep them. And if they don't keep them, we'll find another company that hopefully will. But our intent is for this to be so successful that we can do it again and again and again. So we'll update you on the numbers on that next time we come and see you. Next slide, please. And finally, all these things, Mr. Mayor and Council, that you've heard and others, we gained great national recognition last year among the pandemic. I remember traveling with Councilman Scott to D.C. in previous years. And every year, 550 boards like us gather in D.C. for what you would call the big Super Bowl. Just like the Raiders compete for the Super Bowl, for the Vince Lombardi, and our Knights compete for the Stanley Cup, we, 550 boards, compete for the Lori Moran Partnership. And Councilman Black would say to me, as these boards, these very progressive, innovative boards across the nation would get on the stage and receive their trophy, Jaime, when are we going to win the Super Bowl? And so I'm happy to tell you, I know Councilman knows already, last year we won the Super Bowl. So we're very proud, again, and it can't happen unless we have the partnership we have, like the one with you and the projects you heard today that are working together. So we're honored that you consider us part of your team, and we are going to continue to work hard to help your constituents recover. we'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Councilman Black, your names came up a few times.
Well, first I want to say the 3+ years I've been working with Jaime and Irene, I've watched the progression of the organization in terms of momentum, in terms of credibility, in terms of the high level of board development and the alliances and partnerships that have been established. And no one saw the pandemic coming. However, the work that the team has done at Workforce Connections, creating this foundation and creating this machine, the coordinating of those or the convening of those 17 revenue streams under one stop, one roof, and having everyone collaborating together, really, I think, positioned us in a really unique and fortunate way to be able to face the aftermath, if you will, of the pandemic head on from an employment standpoint. And we've heard evidence of that this evening. One question I have, so it's been really an awesome privilege for me to be a part of that experience and to watch and participate as we prepared ourselves. When you look at the 50 digital marketing specialist opportunity, if you think back about 6 or 8 months when we had our pilot program for small business where we were going to pay half of the salary and we divided that up by jurisdiction by selecting businesses, I would recommend that you use that same model for this. You take those 50 people, break it up by jurisdiction. So say, for instance, we have 5 or 6, by percentage, maybe 5 or 6 or 10 businesses that you work with us on that we can recommend to plant or place that trained digital marketing specialist within. That's a recommendation I would make. So we share it equally across the community.
Thank you, Councilman and Mr. Mayor and members of the council. We do that. We have made sure that we continue to work with the Chambers of Commerce, and of course, the Vegas Chamber represents you, and we make sure that those numbers, the demographics, mirror that. As you know, when we do our work, there's Clark County carries 42% of the fiscal responsibility, City of Las Vegas 30%, North Las Vegas 10%, and so forth. And the rurals get a little bit more love because their need is so special. But yes, we always want to make sure that our initiatives mirror those numbers, and we are. So thank you for bringing that up, Councilman.
Councilman Barone?
Yeah, thank you very much. Something was good, and Jaime, it's good to see you as well. One thing that really struck me as again, again, your outreach to micro businesses. Here, of course, I've been very glad that we started here something, although we haven't had a chance to have it meet. But the North Las Vegas Small Business Academy, which we've had numerous small businesses get started. It's for residents, of course, who are going to start businesses here in North Las Vegas and throughout the valley. Some of them are North Las Vegas residents, and some are going to be North Las Vegas business owners. Anyhow, your outreach to organic small business organizations, with respect, to our friends there at the Latin Chamber, of course, they do represent Latino businesses, but their membership really isn't amenable to many. If we were to go up and down here, the small business owners, to, for instance, Los Cazadores, they're not members of the chamber. They probably don't even know what the chamber is. What is your outreach to the Latino small businesses that are generally outside of the mainstream? And again, with all respect, to Latin Chamber, if we were to go down, for instance, to the Broadacre swap meet, they have 40,000 people that go through there on a weekend. The grand majority of them are Latinos, and the grand majority of the people who have the small businesses are Latino. And I could think of several businesses that would be, they would probably be interested in opening up and expanding their businesses if they knew that these programs existed. So what I'm asking is, what are you doing for outreach into that large market where, again, they're not going. The large chambers, they don't fit what they are part of, and they need to be accessed through very how should I say specialized what do you call digital platforms like La Pulga, which goes through Facebook and WhatsApp. What kind of plan do you have to reach them?
Thank you for that question, Councilman. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm so glad you brought that up because the short answer is we would love to sit down with you and hear any idea you might have because we just got done a few weeks ago we were working with a strategist here in town who specializes in the Latino community. She was going to work with us on a campaign, but she got otherwise busier, I guess, with other bigger projects. I think she serves the RTC and other ones. So we kind of have to reset now. So we'd love to sit down with you and strategize and see if you can help us find an effective method to do exactly what you're saying.
Can I share with that? Thank you for that question. Also, some of the other things, because we presented this presentation obviously to the other local municipalities, including the Clark County Commission, and one of the directives that the commission gave us was to put this in their commissioners' newsletters because you are closer to the client, sometimes the boots on the ground, and each area has a different constituent, and so we're utilizing that. So that's also that's what we're doing with them. In addition, we're putting a link on the the Clark County Commission website that speaks about to these no-cost resources. So anyway, yes, I would invite to have that conversation because the other door that our executive director just talked about didn't open. And so we know that there's more that we can do, but that's how some of the electeds are helping us to get the word out. And we have other strategies as well in place, like a PSA, but that's going out. But just, yes, would love to sit down with you because we can be very targeted and directed to the businesses that are in your community.
Thank you very much. And, of course, we're just a phone call away.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, thank you very much for the presentation. There's no vote on this. We appreciate you. We love to see at least once a year to come back and see the growth that's taken place.
And hopefully there's no pandemic in between. Great to see you all.
We're going to give you a lot of reasons to hire people in North Las Vegas. I can promise you that.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Great to see you.
We're going to moving on to ordinances introduction only.
Item 24, introduce ordinance number 3071, an ordinance to repeal and replace Chapter 8 of Title 2 of the North Las Vegas Municipal Code and repeal ordinance numbers 885, 1472, 2059, 2495, 2573, 2620, 2687, 2739, 2721, 2790, and 2984 to update Chapter 8 to be consistent with the city charter as amended by Assembly Bill 50 in the 2019 Nevada legislative session and providing for other matters properly relating thereto. Set final action for April 7th.
Thank you very much. Moving on to City Manager's report.
Mayor and Council, I just wanted Assistant City Manager Malesio to come and just provide just kind of a brief update on vaccinations and what we're doing while we've been in this meeting today. This evening, as expected, the governor has made an announcement to bring the state more in line with what the nation's trying to do with President Biden's announcement that for everyone to have vaccinations by May 1st. So he's accelerated what we're doing for vaccinations. And to have, I can't remember the date on it, but by April to start opening vaccinations to everyone over the age of 16. So we have been making efforts prior to even the state recognizing the fact that distribution of vaccines has not been proportional and has not been equitable. We started making, we were already putting a plan together before that announcement came because we saw the data the same basic day that he did as soon as we started getting, as soon as we first had the first data dump that showed who was getting vaccines and who wasn't getting vaccines, we recognized a problem and we got involved right away. Alfredo started heading up a team to get vaccinations in the arms of the most vulnerable and those that were not receiving them. And I just wanted him to report back on some of his efforts and some of the different things that have been done. A lot of it has just been steady work, nose to the grindstone, working hard, not in the spotlight, but making a tremendous difference in our community.
Thank you, Ryan, Mayor.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. You know, as a team, when we looked at this, we said, you know, this is one of the most important things we are going to do together. And so we said that because everybody's been affected by the pandemic, and we knew vaccines were going to take all of us. Every vaccine we put out into the community was going to take us closer and closer to holidays and travel and how things used to be. But when you actually are out there, either standing outside of a grocery store or Broad Acres, helping an individual, maybe an elderly individual, and talking to them, maybe answering a question they had, and actually signing them up and securing an appointment, which at first was hard to get, you sort of feel like, wow, this is one of the most important things I personally will ever do for this one individual. And I got probably 50 stories for you about all the people that I helped signed up over the weekends. But the team has been out there with the partnerships with Broad Acres, La Bonita, and Mariana's, and actually tomorrow with First AME Church, talking to folks about how they can sign up, navigate. Originally it was our website and our phone line. Now we've fully migrated over to the 1-800 number for the state and using the state's website, because we're all working on this effort. So we're signing up folks for Canyon Springs, also signing up folks for Cashman. This is some of the most important work we're going to do. And next week, we actually are going to be opening up CSN and looking at filling up a big need, which is after hours appointments for folks. We hear time and time again, I get off at 3, the last appointment's at 3:30. How am I supposed to get there? Or I don't know if the boss will let me off, so we have to tell people how they can cancel an appointment, and that's something we don't want them to do. The second thing is the fire department is also working with the county on and our local partners on Meals on Wheels, and actually getting a team together to actually show up at a person's individual home to actually give the vaccination and wait the 15 minutes and then go on to the next one. A real critical things for folks that are actually homebound. So, and again, the team has been out there. So far, the teams that are giving the vaccinations, 49,000 shots have been given at our sites. And we continue, the numbers continue with the opening up of the different tiers in the past week. Just a lot of excitement, a lot of questions from community members, for folks that don't necessarily are really excited about navigating a website. And so it's been I can tell you it's been a lot of fun, but it's also been very rewarding to participate in this effort.
Wait, just for a second. I just want. Do you have any questions? Anybody here? I have one. I just want to make sure we give you a chance.
Just one. Thank you very much. And of course, I think that's going to really the opening up and having after hours thing. 24-hour town, and so many people work. I think that's fantastic. I'm happy that our team had the presence of mind to be ahead of it. Pop-up vaccination sites. If people see it, they'll make it there. They'll come. Any plans for pop-up sites, say at the Home Depot? Not Home Depot. The Lowe's Center out Lowe's C and Craig. I mean, it's hugely popular, right? I'm thinking also pop-up sites here in the downtown area. Any thought on those?
So with limited resources that we have, what we're trying to do is target specific areas. And so one of the things that we've learned and what we're trying to do now, for example, the state was asked today during a press conference while we were in this meeting what they were doing to target the equity issue. Now, I'll just frankly say they don't know, and they're just saying they're trying to do it because they're not actually boots on the ground. They just talk. And so we started doing this. One of the things that Councilman Black has helped us with is with the health district to expand the hours to make sure we're able to capture people. So if there's an hours problem, right, if we can fill up space with the hours, because we're just trying to identify what are the different challenges. That's the difference between talking and doing. When you're doing stuff, you can actually identify, target, go in specific areas and try and find out the problems. Councilwoman Goins-Brown has been connecting with some different churches. Some of them are on the border of North Las Vegas. Some of them are not in North Las Vegas, but working with pastors because we know that they have connections within their communities of influence to be able to help people and cure some of the issues that we're having when it comes to cultural baggage and that interference with people's desire to get a vaccination. So I think the best way to describe what we're doing, Councilman, and I appreciate the advice and thoughts on that. Those are great ones. I mean, you were the one that talked about, can we get in the homes like a month ago? And we said, not yet, we're working on that. And so this advice and the direction from council is important. And just so you know, what we're doing is it's a lot of experimentation, seeing what works, seeing what results in the most, whenever you get the most vaccines in arms. I talked to a reporter yesterday that mentioned how he had been to all different sites and just could not believe how different North Las Vegas sites was than anybody else. I said, well, then write about it. It's not so that we get credit for it, but it's so that people know. Come, if you don't want to stand in line, if you're in your 70s with a walker and don't want to stand in line, come to North Las Vegas, because our fire department's done a tremendous job probably creating a model that could be used across the country. But I think it also boils down to the dedication. What you maybe didn't hear in what Alfredo was saying is he's out there on Saturdays with other team members. Marissa from Legal was there on Saturday, and they had a little friendly competition. I think she spanked him in signing up more people. And that's kind of what the city attorney's office does, is they always beat us in competitions. Until lately we've had a pretty good run on things. But they did beat us. We've talked to Alfredo about not letting that happen again, but he didn't sign up as many people as she did. So it's these efforts to be out there, the constant thinking about how can we get into people's homes through Meals on Wheels, which is a partner that we work with, that we provide funding for them. But they what's recognized there by our team, by our internal team, is here are folks that are having a challenge in being able to get the basic resources. If you're like Maslow's, the hierarchy of needs, they're food insecure, and that's being satisfied by someone that's a partner of ours. They're probably also limited in their ability to go get a vaccination, or maybe even limited in their connectivity to know and to understand how to go get a vaccination. So we think that by exploring these different options, what you're going to see is not a lot of permanent things. We're going to be trying a bunch of different things to try and get this vaccination happen. Because it's one thing to stand today and say, we're going to get everybody vaccinated by April 15th or April 5th or whatever it was that was announced today. Okay, well, that's all on us, because we don't get to be show horses. We're workhorses here in North Las Vegas, and that's what we're doing. We'll let the show horses do the show horse stuff, but we're going to continue working in targeted areas, and I want to thank Alfredo and thank the fire department and everyone that's working on this to make sure that we're out there constantly trying to cure these issues that we saw before there was some pronouncement on some official proclamation of inequality coming out of Carson City.
Thank you. Any Councilman Brown? Sorry, Scott.
I think you just mentioned my question, but I'm going to ask it again anyway. Just for those vulnerable populations who probably are homebound and cannot get to a clinic, just to be able to provide them with a vaccine if they so desire one, that means you'd have to go to those particular houses. And then also, I went to Nevada Partners today just to tour their vaccination clinic. It was very well run, but I just could see little differences, so kudos to us. But they did a great job, and I was able to get the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, so I was super hesitant and scared to death, but I survived and I did it finally. But we talked about just partnering maybe with Uber or Lyft or one of those organizations to provide transportation to people to and from the various vaccination clinics. So is that something we could look into as well?
That's a great idea. We'll absolutely look into that. And one of the things that's been what's markedly different from what we've been able to do in Southern Nevada is the regional policy group that we have that Chairwoman Kirkpatrick leads. She's been tireless in her efforts to work to make sure that she's I don't even know how she does half the stuff that she does to make sure that that we're having the resources that we need, that we're able to get out there and do these things. Like, her leadership's been tremendous. And there is no doubt in my mind that Southern Nevada would be nowhere near where it's at right now without that, because she is a workhorse, not a show horse.
Councilman Black.
So on my role in the health district, I've been working closely with Dr. Legin, the district health officer, and before today, there has been a debate with Southern Nevada and the state regarding lowering the age. So we have the two lanes, the occupational lane and the age range lane, to lowering that to 55. And the pushback was, well, we're not doing enough outreach. And so I asked Alfredo to put together basically a synopsis of what we've done well before outreach was even a topic or a buzzword, if you will, and equity. We were doing it from day one. And I'd like you to share that with the entire council. It's extensive, the amount of grassroots, deliberate, proactive outreach that we've done. And I shared that with Dr. Legan as a way to articulate to the state that we not only have to do outreach from the beginning till the very last vaccination is given when this is over, but also we have to continue to align supply and demand so we don't have waning demand and surplus supply, because that defeats the purpose of racing the clock of getting the vaccines done in the shortest amount of time possible. So I just want to thank you for that synopsis. It was detailed, it was extensive, it was comprehensive in terms of the way we've done outreach in our community. I just learned yesterday that Alfredo had a team of people around the clock in the break room with the permission of the Aliante Casino and the cannery, signing up 150 people at all 3 shifts that they operate to get the vaccine. So we're doing in North Las Vegas a tremendous amount of outreach, and so I'm super proud of that.
I just want to say thank you for what you're doing, Alfredo. Great report. And the mere fact that you came in second to Marissa, I wouldn't let it bother you. Now, if you came in second to me, I would be ashamed of myself.
I thought this was a team effort.
Okay, I know that. Okay. But now you mentioned going over to CSN. Does that mean that are you still going to be at the Canyon Springs during the day, or are you moving your operation over there?
Yes, we're moving to CSN.
Okay.
And that's just basically because the kids are starting back in school and sports are starting back, so they need the use of the auditorium. So the team was proactive. Assistant Fire Chief Anderson was ahead of that curve working with CSN. CSN has been, we're working on some really exciting things with CSN that we're not ready to announce yet, but through different partnerships that we had, it was very easy to facilitate that. And Dr. Zaragoza was extremely excited to partner and to bring this into that community, as well as offer the services. I believe it's in the Tyrone Thompson Auditorium.
Yes,
is where they're doing it. So it's a great partnership, and we'll continue the service there for and hopefully not for very much longer, because we won't need it. We'll be done.
So just a couple small questions. There will be people such as Pam who at first choose, let me think about this a little longer, and it'll get past whatever date it is. And I haven't had the shot yet either. I didn't know that even what the age was yet. But what will happen after a certain date? Will there always be some of these for the late bloomers, if that's what they decide to do, or does it get cut up? And
yeah, it's an interesting question, because if you look historically, if you look back at the Spanish flu and how long they had to deal with that, granted we have modern science and other things, but if you look at this and you look at the different variants and things, I believe that we'll probably see boosters for a while. I would imagine that probably in the flu vaccine, and maybe Councilman Black knows more than I do on this, but I would expect that during flu season there might be some kind of a booster that will be included within that vaccination. So we might start seeing this being incorporated into normal vaccination processes that we have. Mm-hmm. The distinction there is because of the nature of this and the 2 different times. I mean, having to vaccinate everybody all of a sudden. Imagine if all of a sudden we had to vaccinate everybody from polio, and it wasn't something that people got within, I don't know when you get that, I think within a couple months of your birth, 1 year or 1 year?
No, I was just going to say, if I may, so as they expand the lanes, opening it up to more occupations and lower age ranges, they're not closing the other windows. So if you're 70, the original age was 70 and up, that will remain open until everyone who wants a vaccine will receive it. So they're not closing anyone out. That never expires. So if you wait till the very last day and you were in the first eligibility group, that's okay. As they expand the age range, that just opens it up to more people. So you're not going to miss a window of opportunity. Obviously, the sooner folks get it, the better. But you're not going to lose out on an opportunity. Just by virtue of opening up more lanes, you're not closing out opportunities for other people.
Okay. The initial, once again, Pam, I'll use you for example. She had the one-shot thing today, just one shot in and out, and she felt really good about that. But we had people go one shot, and then they're supposed to come back 2 weeks later and get the second shot. Have we had good response on the second shot, or do people do through the first shot and not come back? Do you know that answer?
I could get you the statistics, Mayor, but we have had some who have not shown up. But I mean, every day we make appointments, and there's a certain small percentage of folks that don't show up for appointments. But you're not fully protected unless you get the second shot. And so that's what we need to continue to put out there so that folks know. So, but it's not a dismal second shot, appointment day. Those appointments are all booked up and people are showing up.
So we have some days where we're just administering second shots.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what makes it difficult, because you're administering second shots when you're also opening the lanes for first shots.
Yeah.
You got them both at the same time.
That statistic is hard to pin down because some people get their first shot at Canyon Springs and then say, now I can go to CVS and get my second shot. And that data, ultimately those data points will align in the master system in the Web by Z, the state's vaccination. But as far as our records go, we don't have an accurate way. So I think a lot of people are getting their second shot.
Okay. What is the age right now? What is technically the age that we're at? Do you know? You don't have to know.
65 and up. Everybody.
65. It still hasn't dropped.
However, they do have. But if you're a hospitality worker, if you're in the different industries and lanes, you could be any age as long as you're in that workforce.
Yeah, I was with the young lady today. Just said I purchased a phone, and she was at UNLV, and she got a shot. She could have been more than 22 years old.
Right.
So I don't really know what's going on with the age thing.
If she was if she was a healthcare worker
or retail establishments, those folks, retail clerks, can get it now as well, regardless of age.
That's good to know. So I guess this is the last question, and you brought this up, Ryan, city manager. I know we have these calls, and Scott and you are on those calls. You represent us on those calls. Are we just crafting it ourselves in Clark County? Is every single county trying to figure out what to do? Is there a state plan, or is everybody just doing their own thing and hopefully it'll get covered? I just have a statewide question. Do you know the answer on that?
Yeah, so there's always been a state plan at any period in time. The challenge for local governments has been is the state plan evolves. And part of the reason that I'll speak for ourselves, but I think that it's shared by other jurisdictions, is part of the reasons for those evolutions is because there's not been appropriate discussions and conversations in creating the state plan. So almost every time that something's been released at the state level, immediately there's needed to be changes and corrections. And it's created a lot of confusion, not just within the jurisdictions, but it is I don't even know how many pages it is now that goes through all the different announcements and retractions and corrections and clarifications and new terminologies, and we go from this to that and that to this. It's extensive, and it's been difficult, and it's the first time that anyone's led through a pandemic, so it's understandable also. But I think it's the lack of collaboration at the very beginning has resulted in not a superior product, which has required a lot of revisions and a lot of changes later on. That's something that, and it's not something that is unknown. I think that it's something the governor's office and the governor himself has said multiple times in several press conferences that he's going to work more on communication and transparency and working with local governments. Unfortunately, we just haven't seen that yet, and we've adapted. We've adapted to being both proactive. I think one of the things that is consistent with the policy group in the last few months is we're going to do it. This is what we're going to do. We're going to do it. We know that there's local control that's going to magically happen on May 1st, but then there's also a playbook that's being developed on what that means. So I think there are certain levels of frustration that have happened at different times, but at the end of the day, there's been little time or energy that's been dedicated to that, and it's been more or less dedicated to solving problems. And then sometimes we already know some of the answers, and then later on other people will catch up. And we'll be like, okay, good. Now they recognize the challenges that were inherent in this directive, but we've moved forward. I mean, there's been consistent communication at all levels of government. Michaela's on calls regularly, or used to be on calls regularly whenever there were a lot of things that were coming out with other city attorneys and county attorneys and different attorneys to troubleshoot and work through. And then I think the results, a lot of their communications resulted in clarifications and changes and recognition that, oh, wow, maybe that didn't make sense. So I think ultimately in the after action report, learning from this would be better collaboration and communication, which is, I get how difficult it is because it's such an evolving, changing thing, but that's probably nationally, definitely in Nevada, something that we can learn from it is how you need to work better together. And you can see the frustration. The frustration's boiled over in Las Vegas today. It'll be in the papers tomorrow. There's frustration with local governments, understandably why there is, and then also it's very understandable why certain things were done at the state level the way they were done because of just.
I don't know. I've never been contacted as the mayor. I'm assuming then it must be through counties only that are getting the direction, or is the governor directing the counties to address the cities? I'm just trying to figure out is there communication I don't know about because I haven't felt it yet. Or is he on those conference calls when the county gets together? Is that where his leadership?
No, I think there's been different times where they tried the LEAP committee, and then the LEAP committee was sort of, for all intents and purposes, replaced by the mitigation task force. No, there's not. That regional call that we're on is a regional call.
It's just county down.
It is a regional call. I think it's pretty consistent with local leaders that there's not a lot of communication that happens in the normal way that you would expect government to communicate. But good news is we've been able to work through it. We continue to work through it. We show progress. There's pockets of excellence that happen. I believe we've got our fair share of them in North Las Vegas, but we have them across the county and in different jurisdictions. And we continue to execute and deliver. And anytime that there's an announcement of a specific date or a specific thing that's going to happen, we go out and make it happen. I know that there are still frustrations with different departments in the state on their ability to deliver different things. I know that because we get the calls lots of times about other agencies and we try and work through them. That's why we set up hotlines and different things. That's why we set up the CARES, NLV CARES websites to try and troubleshoot and provide that information, even though they weren't our problems. But we knew that we needed to try and solve them for our residents that were experiencing them.
For people listening, outside of our city and the county and maybe the other cities having leaders like you on the phone, is there anybody else in the industry or who's on this call with you guys?
Yeah, so the policy call, it includes all of your local governments, and when that, you're talking even expanded to, the airports on it. It includes the resort industry. At different times, it's different people that it includes. It's the sheriff. It's really what's
all levels of education.
Yeah, education.
So you guys are making up the decisions on how Clark County is being serviced. Then
that's correct. It's a FEMA construct.
So there's a lot of other people other than just our cities.
That's correct. Okay. I think generally on the calls there's around 30 people.
30+ people.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have done a great job, and it's really been the right people to put on the phone call. You've made it work in North Las Vegas, and leadership is what you've shown the best. Ms. Goins-Brown.
I have one more question, well, maybe two. So first of all, people that do not do second shots, because I know there's a time frame where you're supposed to get the second shot. Can they get it at extended, or do they start over from the first shot? And then, is the data reported based on the first shot, or is that determine the vaccines that are ordered, or does that go based on second shots? And then, you get a half a stamp on your vaccine card, or all of those questions.
Once a first shot is given, if it's a Pfizer or Moderna, the second shot is automatically ordered and put aside at the state in the inventory. It's a secondary order. And in terms of the timing, the science for Moderna is 3 weeks from the first injection for the second. Pfizer is 4 weeks or 28 days from the first to the second. However, based on supply, there was a time a couple weeks ago with the storm back east where Moderna was delayed, so some folks had to extend. I think Dr. Leguen indicated that it could go upwards of 6 to 8 weeks past the first dose and still have a high level of efficacy. So there is a window or range, but the ideal is the 3 weeks or the 4 weeks, depending upon which type of vaccine you received. So,
thank you. Is that the end of your report? Okay, that's great. You know, before we adjourn and we go to the public real quick, I just want you guys to know there's been a lot of information. Our court system is doing great. We're working there with that. Workforce development, excellent. COVID-19, we're a very involved city council here, and I'm very proud of you guys, and I appreciate you for the time you put into your job here. So we will close out the city manager report. We'll move on to the public forum. Now is the time for the public to speak on issues not on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Now remember, the council can hear these items, but we can't take action on them tonight. Anything raised in the public forum would have to be put on an agenda. So, Madam City Clerk, is there any blue cards, callers, or written comments?
Mayor, the final time tonight, I will say there are none.
Oh, thank you very much. Great meeting. We're going to close the public forum. This meeting is adjourned.